What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the vlog. I'm Dookie Betts, and this is going to be vlog number 17. In this video, we're driving up to Gate City Casino up in Nashua once again today. We played on a Friday night as well as on the Saturday afternoon, so we've got 2 days of content for you guys today. We played for a bit on Friday, didn't get much going, so we decided to go back the next day and play once again. So we've got quite a bit of hands to review, and let's hop right into it. Before we get into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to SunRun Apparel. They sent me this sweatshirt. It's really good stuff, super comfortable, good design, good graphics. If you guys want to get a sweatshirt like this, go check them out. I'll leave the link in the description below. I'm not sponsored by them by any means, but I do like this sweatshirt quite a bit, so figured I'd give them a quick shout out. And yeah, without further ado, let's hop right into the vlog and let's turn some sand into gold. Alright vlog, hopping right into the action today. We played a bit of 1-2 to begin our evening off right. We didn't really get any interesting hands from that, only played for about 45 minutes. Important things to note here, we're in the game for $600 and we're now playing 1-3 match the stack. This game has been running for a while before we got into it. As you can see, some of the stacks are very large. So relative to the rest of the players at the table, we're pretty much coming in as a short stack, as crazy as that sounds. We still have about 200 big blinds in our stack, so it's really not going to change our strategy all that much. However, just important to note that some of these guys have 1,500, some even $2,000 in the stack, so some of these fellas are definitely playing very deep. First interesting hand of the afternoon comes about 45 minutes into our session. We're stuck a bit from the 1-2 game, we're down about $125 thus far, and we pick up Ace King of Diamonds in the small blind. Super cute hand, definitely gonna be playing this one. We see the under the gun player raised to $17, and we see a +1 3-bet to $50, so we're definitely gonna be getting down and dirty early in this session. We put in the nice simple 4-bet to $125 with the Ace King suited out of the small blind. We don't want to be playing any flats. Just cold calling the 3-bet here would definitely open the door for the under the gun player to come in behind. So all of that being said, cold calling here is pretty terrible in my opinion. So I think it seems like a mandatory 4-bet spot. Plus our hand Ace King is a very strong hand. So all of that being said, we bump it on up to $125. We see the under the gun player fold, and the player who 3-bet pre is going to put in the call here, and we're going to go heads up with a large sum of money in the middle. The flop comes King Queen 6 two-tone board with 2 hearts. Really good start for us. We have top pair, top kicker. As the 4-better here, I think we're going to be playing a pure 20 to 25% c-bet with our entire range. Whether or not we hit the board doesn't really matter. We go ahead and bet $60 and he snap folds. Kind of unfortunate because we did have one of the strongest hands we could have here, with the exception of aces or a set of kings or something like that, but nonetheless, we take down the pot, and we're happy to win a large pot with very little resistance. About half an hour later, we pick up Ace 6 of hearts in the small blind, with about $700 in our stack. It folds all the way around to the button player, and he puts in a $15 raise. In hindsight, I should probably 3-bet against a button open here, but we just put in the $15 call. The big blind folds, so we're heads up out of position with about $35 in the middle. We absolutely drill this flop with Ace 7 3 2 hearts, about as good as you can get with Ace 6 of hearts. I'm gonna check it on over here. I think donking would be a bit silly. He bets $25, which is a pretty large size. Maybe I should be raising here, but once again, I just put in the call. Turn comes the Jack of Spades, so doesn't improve our hand. Doesn't really change the board all that much overall. I check it on over, and he checks back pretty quickly. The river comes the 4 of Diamonds, so our flush draw bricked out, but I think as played, we're still gonna have the best hand here a lot. I could put in a value bet here, but I don't really see any worse hands putting in a call if we value bet, so that leaves us with the better option of just checking on over and trying to get him to bluff. That's exactly what we do. We check it on over. He puts in a bet of $52 and we snap it right off. He was bluffing, and we take down this $187 pot and add $95 to our stack. Wow.
That was a great flop.
Next hand of the evening, we pick up 8-7 of diamonds on the button. We see an under the gun limp followed by a low jack raise to $10. I'm going to put in the call here with 8-7 of diamonds. It's a very pretty hand, and I'd like to see a flop with it. After we put in the call, the under the gun limper calls behind, so we're going 3 ways in position with about $35 in the middle once again. We get a flop of king 10-9 with 1 diamond. We flop open-ended plus the backdoor flush draw to go with it. Pretty good start for us all in all. We see the under the gun player check, and then the low jack now fires $15. With my hand, we could probably do a little bit of everything except fold. We just call here once again, maybe a bit too passive. Maybe we should be taking a more aggressive line with our open-ended straight draw. Nonetheless, we call and the under the gun player folds, so we're now heads up to the turn. Turn comes the 4 of clubs, and once again the low jack barrels here for $40. I like my hand a little bit too much to be folding on the turn here, so we put in the call once again. Maybe we're not getting the right price to draw here, but in real time we put in the call. The river comes the ace of hearts, so we completely bricked. The low jack fires $100, and we pretty much immediately fold our hand here, so that kind of stinks, but all in all, really not the worst result, I guess. Maybe we should be folding, maybe we shouldn't be chasing so much, but at the end of the day, we lost $65. A few orbits later, we have the exact same configuration as the last hand. We're on the button once again. This time we have a more powerful hand. We look down at pocket tens. We see the low jack raise on up to $15 once again, and I'm obviously 3-betting this hand in position. We make it $50 to go. It folds around to the big blind, who puts in the spicy 4-bet to $155.
155.
Low jack gets out of the way after some deliberation, and it's now over to me. I've had a good opportunity to think about this while the low jack was in the tank, and I think I'm just gonna fold the tens here. Maybe this is terrible, maybe I should peel and see a flop in position, but in the 1-3 games, people typically aren't 4-betting super light, so we just get away from this hand pre-flop and lose $50. The big blind then quickly rolls over ace jack of spades and showed that he 4-bet pretty light here, so honestly just good play on him. Well played, sir. You got us to fold pocket tens pre-flop. And the final meaningful hand of the evening comes about 15 minutes later. We're in the cutoff. We pick up ace-queen offsuit. We see the under-the-gun player raise to $15. This is followed by a +1 and a hijack call. Playing out of the cutoff here, we're going to be playing a lot of 3-bets, and ace-queen is a very good hand to do that with. We make it $75 to go, and one by one, each one of these players sticks in the call, so our 3-bet squeeze worked out very, very poorly for us in this spot. Going 4 ways with $300 in the middle, we get a flop that just doesn't help us at all. It's jack high with a whole lot of nothing to go with it. It checks all the way on over to us, and I'm ready to give up here. We check it back. Turn comes the 5 of clubs, so again, just a pretty bad card for us once again. We now see the under the gun player bet $150, and this is followed quickly behind with a +1 player jamming the rest of his stack in the middle, which is a decent sum of money, and we could not fold this hand fast enough, so $75 down the drain, nothing to go with it, no story to tell, just a 3-bet squeeze that didn't work out. Alright vlog, I just wrapped up. Pretty quick session today. Didn't really play that many interesting hands. I don't even know if I'm going to include this in the vlog. We were in for 600, out for 550, so we lost $50. Played from about 3 to about 7, so roughly 4 hours. Pretty anticlimactic ending, didn't really get anything going. The table I was at was honestly pretty tough. Like, I thought it was a lot of competent players, so rather than just battling with a bunch of what seemed to be regulars, I'm just going to go get Chipotle and drive home. So I'm done with work for the rest of the summer, so I'm going to have a lot of time to play. So no need to just battle with a bunch of good players when I have the next 2 weeks to do whatever I want in terms of poker. So we're going to drive home. We're going to take it easy, and I'll definitely be playing more this week. So I might like combine this video with more videos from other places throughout the week, so rather than just doing one session, might throw in a few more. We'll see what I end up doing though. So the next day, we decided to take our talents back to Gate City Casino. They had a 2-day tournament running. It was a $300 entry. We flicked in a bullet in the day 1B on Saturday. We played that for about 2 hours before busting out. Didn't do all that well at all. Didn't run very good, didn't get much going. At least we didn't waste all day playing it and just end up bubbling. So we lost $300 there. We did sell 33% of it, so technically we lost $200 playing in the tournament. Shortly after that, we hopped into the 1-2 cash game streets, played that for about 45 minutes before moving up once again to play in the 1-3 game. In this next clip, you'll see we hopped into the 1-3 game at about 2 o'clock. In the 1-3 streets, we're in for $600 on the day with about $440 in our stack, so we're stuck about $160 from the 1-2 game. Like all New Hampshire 1-3 games, they're a little bit degen, a little bit gambly. No exception here. We're going to start the day off right with a double board bomb pot. We pick up King 4 offsuit, so really not much to write home about here. But we get a pretty enticing flop here on one board with Ace Queen Jack, all clubs, followed by King 10 Queen. So we flop top pair, no real kicker on one board, and then the nut flush draw on the other board. Pretty good start for us with $90 in the middle here. On the flop here, it checks all the way around to me, and I have a pretty good hand to bet, I think. Obviously, we've got the nut flush draw as well as top pair, so a decent amount of equity going for us on both boards here. It checks all the way around, and we bet $40. After our bet, we see the button player flick in the call, as does the small blind, so we're now 3 ways to the turn. The turn rolls off on both boards, and we unfortunately do not improve in either fashion. We see the club come on the wrong board, which is sort of unfortunate for us, but nonetheless, when it checks over to us once again, I think we can still put in another barrel here, try and get some hands that are drawing to fold, maybe take this down. I'm not really sure. Maybe we should just be checking, but I'm not good at these double board bomb pots, guys. I really have no technical analysis here other than we just blasted away. We made it $125 to go, and once again, both players call, and now I'm starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable with my hand. The river rolls off on both boards, and they are unfortunately bricks. We do not improve. We're stuck with top pair, no kicker on one board, and then just a busted draw on the other. We're surely not good anymore. Pretty unfortunate that it ran out like this. It checks on over to us, and I'm happy to just give up here. We check it back. We lose to straights on both boards, and we cost ourselves $180 here on this hand, so we pretty quickly add on, and we're now in the game for $800. Yeah, this was surely a punt on this hand, and honestly, I need to get better at these bomb pots if I'm going to be playing them, or I should just stop playing them altogether, but nonetheless, we punted here and lost ourselves a good chunk of change. Not long after, we're back in the no limit Hold'em streets, playing a game I actually know how to play, so that's always good. We pick up Ace King under the gun. We're gonna have ourselves a raise to $15. Pretty quickly after, the +1 player 3-bets to $40, and then the low jack pretty much snap calls the 3-bet, gets back over to us, and similar to the hand we played the day prior with Ace King in the small blind, we've got a mandatory 4-bet spot here. We do not want to be going 3 ways out of position. We put in the spicy 4-bet to $120, and both players end up putting in the call here, so our 4-bet didn't really work. We're now 3 ways out of position with about a pot-sized bet back, so kind of a dicey spot to say the least. Going 3 ways with about $360 in the middle, we get a pretty ideal flop, I'd say. We get King 9-4 rainbow board. We flop top pair, top kicker. As played, our opponents really shouldn't have kings, so that leads set of 9s I guess we lose to, which really only the low jack could have, I think. I'm going to be c-betting here a lot, obviously. As the 4-better, we're going to have loads of aces, a good amount of kings, and then maybe like queens and stuff that would c-bet. We put in the $90 c-bet. We see the +1 player snap call us, and then the low jack jams for $260 altogether. As played, I'm certainly never folding ace king here. If he's got us beat, he's got us beat. It's literally only pocket 9s that I'm worried about here. So I put in the call, the +1 player folds, and the low jack player shows ace king, and we go chop chop here. At least we get a solid amount of dead money from the +1 player here, who later said he had pocket queens. We pick up $107 and chop up this $970 pot, so not the worst outcome, I'd say. About half an hour later, we're in the under the gun position once again, and we look down at ace king offsuit, pretty much the same configuration as last hand. We put in the standard open to $15. We see the +1 player just call this time, and then the button player puts in the call as well, so we're going 3 ways out of position with Big Slick. We get a pretty good flop here of King 10-4 with 2 clubs. We have the ace ace of clubs in our hand, so we have removal to some nut flush draws, which is always good for us. Playing out of position, we're going to start with a lot of checks here. We tap the table here, and the +1 player puts in a $25 bet. The button player pretty quickly gets out of the way, and with my hand, I think we have a pretty good check raise candidate. We're blocking some flush draws. We have top pair, top kicker. There are some hands like Queen Jack that might have a decent amount of equity against us. So overall, I just think the check raise here is probably the way to go. We bump it on up to $80, and the +1 player puts in the call. So we're now heads up to the turn. Turn comes the Queen of Diamonds, so it improves hands specifically like Ace Jack, but I don't really see him calling a check raise on the flop with that. Once again, we're just going to go for some value here, try and get some value from maybe 10x or Queen X combos. We bet about half pot here, $100 into 210, and he pretty quickly folds, so we take down a nice pot and add $114 to our stack. Not that crazy of a hand, but nonetheless a good pickup, and we're working in the right direction here. About an hour goes by of being somewhat card dead. We've played a few $15 bomb pots, bricked on those, as well as seen a few flops and just leaked some money overall. We're down to about $500 in the stack here, where we pick up King Jack offsuit in the cutoff. We see the under the gun player limp in. We see the +1 player raise to $15. The low jack puts in the call, and I'm going to stick it in here out of the cutoff. It's likely that we'll be able to play in position. We throw in 15 bucks, and the under the gun player calls behind, so we're 4 ways to the flop with about $60 in the middle. We get a pretty dicey flop overall of ace king queen rainbow board. We've got middle pair with a gut shot to go with it. Not really in love with it, but it's better than completely whiffing. It checks all the way around to us, and there's really not any reason to be betting here. If we bet, only better will call. We won't get any value, plus we're multi-way, so it just seems like an absolute disaster to bet this hand. Plays pretty well as just a check back, so that's what we do. We tap the table, and we're off to a turn. Turn comes the 5 of diamonds, really changes nothing overall. We see the +1 player bet $25, the low jack puts in the call, and you could probably go either way here. It would probably be a fine fold, but as played, game's a bit splashy, not really sure if anybody has an ace as played, so we put in the $25, which in hindsight maybe just a fold, but we put it in, and we're now 3 ways to the river. River's the 10 of clubs, so we make our straight. We have the nuts on this board. We cannot lose this hand. Beautiful sight for us. Action slows down now, and it checks over to us, and it feels like it's going to be pretty hard to get paid here. Pot's about $140. My first instinct was to go pretty small here and just try and get a crying call from some sort of ace-x combo, but I really didn't feel like anybody had that to begin with. So my second thought was to size up here, go massive, and make this look like a huge bluff. We make it $110 to go, and both players fold, so looking back on this, we probably should have gone with the small size. Probably missed out on some value from weak aces or something like that. But at the end of the day, we still added $100 to our stack here. A few minutes later, we're in the +1 position, and we look down at pocket queens. Beautiful hand. Happy to pick that one up. We see the under the gun player raised to $15, and I'm obviously 3-betting the queens. We're going to make it 55 bucks to go. It folds all the way around back to the under the gun player, and he does this.
Yeah.
Really? Pretty crazy spot here. Played a lot of low stakes in my day, and typically when people jam hands in like this, it's usually just aces and kings, so I'm actually kind of unsettled by this bet, but I've been talking to this player for a good amount during the day. He's a pretty capable player. I've seen him play well throughout the day, so I actually think that he would probably be finding non-all-in 4-bets with hands like aces and kings. So after deliberating on this hand for quite some time, I think his range is more weighted around hands like ace king, maybe pocket jacks, maybe he's got like ace 5 suited for a bluff, although that might mix in with the 4-bet non-all-in size. Overall, this is a crazy hand because we're super deep. When it goes raise 3-bet, we're definitely deep enough to see a 4-bet to a non-all-in size. So I was just perplexed by this one for quite some time. After a bit of tanking, I realized that queens is just too good to fold here, so if he's got aces or he's got kings, good on him. If he's got ace king, let's flip. Maybe he has jacks, we're ahead of that. Feels kind of dicey, but we put the money in. Queens. Wait, can we go twice? Is that a thing?
I believe we can. I would need to call the floor. I don't do it that often. I don't recall the precise rules on it.
Okay. Do you mind? It's a lot of money. Yeah.
Floor 180? I'll double check this because I think...
They were yesterday. and he rolls over pocket jacks, and we've got about $1,000 in the middle. Let's please hold. Little side note, I begged the dealer to let us run it twice here. He called the floor over, and the floor said, yeah, bro, that's cool. We're just gonna double rake it. So instead of paying $7 in rake, we're gonna be paying $12 here. But honestly, for $1,000 flip, I was pretty timid, pretty scared. So we take a run out, and we end up holding on both boards. So beautiful sight here. We pick up about $1,000 and really have the wheels turning now. We're unstuck on the day. We're up some money, and it wasn't quite $1,000 pot, but it was damn near very close. This will end up being the biggest hand that I've covered on the vlog thus far. So that's pretty cool as well. Next hand of the night comes a bit later. We've got about $1,000 in our stack now. We see the under the gun player limp in, and this is followed by a cutoff open to $15. We look down at pocket kings, and we're obviously going to be 3-betting things up here. We make it $55 to go. We now see the small blind cold call. I don't think this is the nutted hands in his range. I don't think he's ever doing this with aces, ace king, stuff like that. It's definitely way more likely that this opponent has a middling strength hand, so we're going to be looking to play for stacks here. Folds around elsewhere, and we're heads up in position to the flop. Flop comes queen jack 9, so really not the safest board we could have gotten. Small blind checks it over to us, and in game we go 1/3 here. We bet $50 into about 130. Looking back on it, I would have liked to go bigger here. I think our overall range is going to need a ton of protection on boards like this, so maybe we should be going like 100, 110 here. Following my $50 C bet, the small blind now reaches for raising chips and puts in the check raise here to $120. Honestly, pretty alarming stuff here, but I'm not ready to fold my kings just yet. We put in the call. The turn seems super safe as it rolls off. It's the 4 of clubs. This player now reaches into his stack and bets $180, and I'm having a really hard time finding any sort of bluffs that this player can have. He's been super tight for the most part, haven't really seen him get out of line. So all in all, I just think we're beat here a lot. Eventually, we put in the hero fold.
Just for the vlog if you want.
And we are correct, as he has a set of 9s. Honestly, shout out to that guy for showing me his set there. Go comment down below if you guys would fold kings on that last hand. In this next hand, we're playing a $15 double board bomb pot once again. We're 7-handed. We have the button here, so that's good for us. And we pick up 7-5 offsuit. At first glance, not much. Whole lot of nothing, pretty much. We get a pretty solid flop on one board of 8-8-6, and absolutely nothing on the other. So we got a nice little open-ended draw on a paired board, which is always a little bit dicey, and then absolutely nothing on the other board. On the flop here, it's going to check all the way around to me, and I really don't have that much going except a draw on one board, so happy to check this one back and take some turns. Turn on the top comes the 7 of diamonds, so we now have an open-ended straight flush draw, and down below it's a 4 of spades, so we now have a little gut shot. On the turn, it now checks to the under the gun player who bets $30. Folds all the way around to me, and I flick in $30 here with an open-ended straight flush draw on one board, not really going anywhere, so we throw in the $30 to call, and the big blind calls behind, so we're now 3 ways to the river. The river rolls off, and it is quite the river card on the top board. It's the 4 of diamonds, so we get there with our straight flush. Interestingly enough, we actually don't have the nuts there, but if either of our opponents had 9-10 of diamonds, we would lose that board, but we'd actually beat them on the other one, as interesting as that sounds. On the river, the under the gun player now slows down and checks. It gets over to me, and I'm kind of in a weird spot here. I'm pretty much guaranteed half the pot. With 3 players in the hand, I could bet small here and try and get both of them to call, and then I make whatever sum of money I put in the middle divided by 2 pretty much, because I assume I will chop with someone else. I'm probably not going to win the other board. So that's option number 1 here. Option number 2 is we just rip it in their face. Try and get them to fold, honestly, and if they fold, we pick up what's in the middle. If they call, we probably chop. We go with option B, and we jam it all in for about $380 effective. Gets over to the big blind player. He's the short stack. He's got like $100, $150 in the stack. He pretty quickly folds his hand, and now it's over to the under the gun player who is in the tank for quite some time, and eventually he puts in the call with our exact same hand, but no straight flush. So we scoop the top board outright, and on the bottom board, we chop it up. So we end up winning 3/4 of this pot. When it's all said and done, it's a $955 pot, and we win $716 worth of it. Pretty incredible spot here. I'm really surprised that this guy called us off with just the straight, no flush on a 4 to the flush board, but we'll take it. I mean, we will certainly take the chips here. Crazy hand. Final interesting hand of the day comes about 20 minutes later. We pick up ace 10 in the hijack. We see an under the gun raise to 12, which is followed by a +1 player call. This is a bit loose here, but we throw in the 3-bet squeeze to $50. I think this is a fine hand to do this with. If we get 4-bet, it's just a very easy fold. It's not a super good hand, so we're not going to be 4-bet off of any significant equity if it comes to that. Fortunately enough for us, it doesn't come to that. We see the small blind player cold call, and then the under the gun player calls as well. So we're going 3 ways in position to a flop. The flop comes 8-6 deuce all clubs, so pretty good flop for our specific hand. However, for our overall range, I really don't think we're going to be performing that well on this board. I would imagine the small blind cold calling is going to have more flushes and more low suited connectors that are going to be doing well on this board. We really can't have many of those hands, I don't think. So when it checks all the way over to us, although we do have the ace of clubs, we decide to check this one back. Turn comes the jack of hearts, which doesn't improve our hand. Might be better for our range, I guess, but it's probably indifferent overall. The small blind player starts with a check once again, and the under the gun player bets $50. For this size, I think we have a pretty easy call. We're getting about 5-1 on our money. If we have just the flush draw available as our outs, we have 20%, so do with that what you will. I also think raising here is fine in some instances. We do have the ace of clubs, so our opponents are never going to have the nut flush here. We could just turn our hand into a bluff. I think all in all, we could go either way between calling and raising. At the end of the day, we put in the call, and the small blind gets out of the way, so we're now heads up to the river. River rolls off the 6 of spades, doesn't really change anything. We do not get there. All we have is ace high now, and we now see the under the gun player check it over to us, and I think this is pretty much just a sign of weakness for the most part. He's never really gonna have traps as played. I don't think he would play a hand like jacks or eights like this ever. We also have a super relevant blocker card in our hand in the form of the ace of clubs. I really don't find bluffs all that often at these low stakes games, but I sort of think that this hand is just a mandatory bluff here. I mean, if we're not bluffing this hand, we're really not bluffing anything. We go for it here. We bet $225 into about 265. He tanks for no more than 5 seconds and immediately folds his hand. Beautiful pickup here. I honestly don't even think we need to go this big. As played, he really didn't have anything, I don't think so. I think we honestly could have bet a size like half pot and still had the same result here. So just a little nitpick. Maybe we should just bet like half pot here more often. And I know you guys absolutely hate this. Got a lot of negative feedback on the last video when I showed a huge bluff, but we tabled it again. We're on our way out. We're gonna leave pretty soon, so really no harm done from this one. We just wanted to, you know, rub it in a little bit. Nonetheless, nice pickup here, and we add about $170 to the stack. And this was the last interesting hand of the session for today. Alright vlog, quick recap on day 2 today. Or not day 2, but second day of Gate City in a row, I guess you want to call it. Started off the day with a day 1B for the tournament. It was a $300 entry. We bricked that pretty quickly. We sold a third of it, so we lost $200 there, played for about 2 hours. Following that, we played a bit of 1-2, which we didn't film, and then we hopped into the 1-3 game right after. All in all, we were in for $800, out for $1,220. So we played for about 4 hours and cashed a nice little profit of $420. Not a bad day in the office. Pretty fun game. Action was good. And yeah, had a good time overall. So all in all, today we played for about 6 hours and made $220. Not a bad day at all. We'll definitely take that result. Kind of sucks we couldn't get anything going in the tournament, but I also am not very good at tournaments, so maybe we just shouldn't have played it to begin with, but what are you going to do, you know? Going from there, I think our plan is to just go play at the Brook on Tuesday, and following that, I'm not really sure. But I'll figure it out and fast forward to where we're at now. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so that's going to wrap up the session today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I did make mention of playing at the Brook on Tuesday. That will be the next vlog, little sneak peek for you guys here. It will be my first 2-5 session, so if you guys want to see that, make sure to subscribe. make sure to hit the like button, and it'll be out in about a week's time. That video is sure to be a banger, so make sure to subscribe and stick around for that one as well. Once again, shout out to SunRun Apparel for this sweatshirt. If you guys like this, go check them out. They have a variety of sweatshirts and shirts in a whole lot of different colors, a few different designs as well. I have the Ducks one, it's on the back, but they also have Kings. They've got a few other designs in there as well. So, look good, run good, that's what they say. If you guys made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for that. I wanted to give you guys a little sneak peek here what I'm going to do. I'm almost at 3,000 subscribers, so once I get there, I'm going to be doing a $50 giveaway. All you have to do is be subscribed to the YouTube channel and follow on the Instagram. If you do both of those things, you'll be eligible to win a free $50 from yours truly. Once we hit 3,000 subs, I'll be picking somebody who both follows the Instagram and is subscribed to the YouTube channel, so you don't want to miss out on that. Links to both things will be down below, and I appreciate you guys for making it to this point in the video. That's pretty much all I got today. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, drop a sub once again. And hopefully I can see you guys again in the future, and we can turn more sand into gold. Take care, guys.